knickers. Oh, there's no underwear, there's nice. No, they're old, but thanks for noticing.
All content is brought to you by our Patreon subscribers. For $3 a month, you can help keep the lights on at From North to Wharf. We appreciate all of your ongoing support. For all your North to Wharf merchandise, head on over to our shop at fromnorthtowharf.threadless.com.
Does Hestia know you?
Oh yeah, clearly, we're on a wrong name basis.
And now we're here, and there aren't any monkeys being friends with lions!
Okay, no one said for sure there'd be monkeys, honey.
I'm not gonna arrest the moose.
He's a good boy! He's a good boy!
Being your muse no longer amuses me. It's pretty good, you can use that. But that's it. I'm done with your show.
From the Great North to Wonder Wharf. All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of From the Great North to Wonder Wharf, your unofficial one-stop destination for bento box information. As always, I am Mike.
And I am JB from the
And
cave.
hey, we know you're not here to hear us ramble on, so JB, let's just get right into it.
Let's do it. All right. So, North to Wharfers, tonight we have a very, very, very special night planned for you. Tonight we have an interview with one of the greats in the world of comedy. He has worked as comedian, writer, actor, and director. Not to mention he is a prolific musician. And from my home state of Ohio. So, yeah, why not? He has worked on both film and screen on projects such as Wet Hot American Summer, Role Models, Children's Hospital, New Girl, Stella, Miracle Worker, Super Jail, Buzzburgers the movie. And also, he has what some people call a very talented middle-aged dad jam band that he just decided to start up. So coming to a city near you, maybe? We'll see. So please help us welcome the extraordinarily funny and talented David Wain.
And there we go. Hello, how are you?
Great. So nice to be here on this YouTube channel.
First off, before we get into it, again, thank you very much for coming on here. I know our audience appreciates it. We appreciate it. So thank you very much.
It is really, truly my pleasure.
JB, I'll let you start us off.
Why not? Because it's a question about the lovely state that we're from. So, starting in a really easy question for just a brief minute, what was it like growing up in Shaker Heights?
Wait, what part of Ohio are you from?
I was from Euclid and then moved to Columbus.
Oh, nice. I was from the east side, Shaker Heights.
Yes.
What was it like?
The better side, yes.
I would say it was sort of like a John Hughes movie. It was a good shorthand. I went to a high school with a big red brick high school and public school, and ran around with my friends, made little videos, was in the plays, rode my bike, swam in the pool. That was a very nice childhood, upper middle class.
Nice. Did you by chance have a favorite cartoon or shows or comedians you watched as a kid? I grew up, unfortunately, with Big Chuck and Little John. I don't know if it's unfortunate. They're kind of okay. But did you remember them growing up at all?
I remember Big Chuck, Little John. I was a big fan of the stuff on Channel 43, John Lanigan's movies in the afternoon and stuff. I remember. But I also loved Hong Kong Phooey.
Yeah.
That was a favorite as a kid. As far as cartoons, I mean, of course, the Super Friends was everything to me.
Did you have a favorite super friend?
I mean, Wonder Woman, because
Yeah, I think we all got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, her collarbones were so sexy.
So
and
what
if you
were
watch
your
the Super Friends show now? I mean, of course, people know this, but like it was so terrible and so unsophisticated in almost every way imaginable.
Yep.
But it has that old, like, I still love the old Superman cartoons.
Those are
I can't.
good.
Yeah, they still hold up. I mean, they're
Those are
certainly.
great, yeah.
Yeah, they certainly don't hold a candle to what they can do now, but for some reason they're better than what's being made now. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's a feeling.
I mean, despite what some younger people might think, there are plenty of things in the past that are wonderful.
Yeah,
and hold up.
Yeah. I keep trying to tell our producer Abby, who's in the chat. She's I think she's 21, and she likes to remind us every week that she is much younger than we are. So
good to know.
Yeah,
like VHS and cassettes and vinyl before vinyl came back.
Yes.
So what were your plans for a career growing up? I know some kids want to be a baseball player, some want to be an astronaut or a firefighter. Did you always see yourself as an entertainer of sorts, or did that come later on?
I feel like when I was very young, people asked me what I want to be when I grow up, and I said either a scientist or a businessman. Having really no idea what either of those people would really do in real. And then before I was born, my parents put out a birth announcement that said, we'd like to welcome to the world, Dr. David Benjamin Wain. And so
no pressure.
No pressure.
Their wishful thinking. And that was my nickname among my parents' friends growing up, was Doctor. But I think I gravitated towards creative stuff fairly early on. I entertained my family at dinner in the dining room, and I would, as soon as I got my hands on a video camera, which was probably something my father had borrowed from his office when I was maybe 10-ish, and I just started very much being excited about playing with that, and Super 8 a little bit before that, and just doing skits. And I mean, really, there was no moment. It was just kind of, I feel like I was doing the same thing as I do now, then just in different ways over the many years. 55 of them so far.
Now, I remember when I was younger, I got my hands on a camera. I think I was around age 13 or 14. And at that point, it was either filming like my friends skateboarding and doing little skits in the woods, or filming like our band practicing, which one was a lot better than the other. I preferred the skateboarding, but no, it was
literally, I do the same thing. We had the bands, the middle school bands would play in my basement because we had a basement, and I had parents that were okay with it. And I would make all these videos with the bands, and that's literally what I'm still doing.
Yeah. We would do our renditions of Rambo or movies that we saw with sticks in the woods and stuff when we were kids, and we're like, this is great. And then we'd watch it this is not that good. This is
one of the memorable things I did with my friend Stuart was we did a series called Fight on Hollywood Boulevard, which was about various Spanish-speaking gangs in Los Angeles and what their lives were like on the street, as if we had any
I was gonna say, how much experience in Ohio did you have of Latin gangs in LA?
Not only no firsthand experience, no secondhand knowledge or thirdhand, zero.
Is it all just based on what you saw off TV, I assume?
Not even.
Not even.
Just assumptions.
I was watching Super Friends. And there was nothing about it on Happy Days, as I recall. So then, no.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that episode. So yeah. No. It was good. You were ahead of your time. You were seeing the future, and that's you were going there.
Takes on the gangs of LA.
Do you think any shows or comedians that you grew up influenced your humor, at least in the early stages of your life there as a preteen?
Of course. I mean, when I was about 8, we got one of the first Betamaxes on the block, so we could watch things over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I had some Steve Martin specials, and also Steve Martin records from before that. And I basically ingested and memorized all of his stuff, over and over and over again. It just became part of my inner system forever. Mm-hmm. So that was a big one. And then also Woody Allen, all his movies. My sisters were I had much older sisters, and they were big Woody Allen fans. And I watched those movies over and over and over and over. And so those were probably the two pillars for me as a younger person.
Would you try to mimic or retell Steve's jokes and try to mimic his delivery until you kind of found your own voice?
Well, I never really much did stand up, but I certainly, I went to the Peaches record store, Steve Martin act-alike contest. But I have to admit I chickened out before I actually got on stage. But no, of course I would do all his bits all the time. When I started more actually writing and doing sketches and stuff, I don't know that I consciously was aping that stuff, but I certainly was unconsciously. It was who I was, part of my bloodstream, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense for me looking at all like the shows that I grew up watching that you were part of that we'll get into in a little bit, like Stella, where I'm like Steve Martin. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Steve Martin was such a going against the grain of his time in such a massive way by leaning towards the absurd and the silly in a way that was, to me, just not that I was aware of the mores of the time in any way, but something about it just struck me so elementally that I've always been a big fan.
It like shocks you to think about it for a minute, because his whole thing is he's like, I want them to not get it, go home, and then on the drive home be like, why did he do that? And then literally watch him again and then be like, oh, I get it now. He's making fun of this, and it totally is great. It's like that's when they get it.
Although in a way, I think I don't think he really meant that literally. It's like saying Seinfeld's a show about nothing. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not. He's really making. And also the idea that he would say, you know, his jokes don't have punchlines, but they do.
They do.
They're just different kinds.
People quote them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was there in your formative years, was there a teacher or a friend or an older figure in your life that saw potential and just kind of pushed you towards like, hey, you really have a talent for this. You should pursue it?
Well, I mean, I would say my older sisters and my parents would laugh at me a lot, you know, when I was with me, when I was trying to be funny. So that was encouraging, and my friends. And then, yeah, there was a great teacher at our high school whose name was Vince Cardinal, who was like a younger teacher who was very hip and very, you know, he really paid attention to his students and saw who they were individually, and was very encouraging of my sensibility, I guess. And we had a thing at my high school where students would write plays and put them on in a little tiny black box theater. And I really loved that. I was super into that. And so I continue to do things like that to this day, you know? And so, yeah, that's who comes to mind.
Nice.
So we're going to jump ahead.
Also, I lived for a summer with John Cleese. He helped me with a lot of stuff.
As you do, you do.
As every young actor /
But that was a great joke, though. Keep that in.
Don't worry, this is streaming live. None of this is cut out.
We're state workers. We don't have time to edit. So this is it. So in '88, while attending NYU Film School, you started a sketch comedy group called The New Group, which later was renamed The State. And you continued to work on this project. And in '93, you were approached by MTV to do a sketch show. What was that like, getting that opportunity, and what stressors came with it?
Well, just to correct you, I did not start the new group. I was in the group that was the precursor to the new group. And then Todd Hollebeck left that other group to start what at the time was considered like a junior group or a JV squad for the larger group. And then that eventually morphed into the new group, which became the State. But I mean, you know, it's interesting because at the time we were doing that, we didn't, again, have any frame of reference for anything. And so it was incredibly exciting. Obviously, I had worked at MTV as an intern and doing little PA jobs and some writing jobs kind of while I was still in college and then right after graduating. And we just had this on this show called You Wrote It, You Watch It, where I was able to help bring in the whole group to work on it. And it was a very, in retrospect, an incredibly fast and opportune set of events that led us to being offered the chance to make a pilot for our own show, you know, in our 22, 23 years old. And I mean, it was great. It was incredible. You know, it was basically hanging around with all our best friends and being paid a tiny bit, but being paid to make dumb jokes and shoot them and put them on TV. It was we of course created our own enemies because that's what you do when you're young. And so we were like, MTV sucks. And the executives here are trying to make us do things that we don't want to do. And, and I think our cockiness only served us in a way for a while. It was cool.
It's always like very prone in that age group, go against the grain. It's the man's problem. And then it's like, oh, we actually need you guys though, unfortunately.
Right. Exactly. I know. Yeah. You come to appreciate, and also just appreciate that everyone's a human being and everyone's just trying their best. And, a lot of things come with that. But then of course the ignorance of being young leads to a certain way of writing something or a certain way of presenting something that you can never recreate. And so I honor all times in life.
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
It's still getting over that COVID. It is lingering.
Get it out.
Yeah.
Do you feel this experience allowed you to grow as a writer, as a comedian, as a performer, and also to allow your friends to also kind of improve their craft and rise up to get other opportunities?
Yeah. Well, doing the state was very competitive. There were 11 of us, 10 guys and 1 woman. And it was, we had a 21-minute show on MTV. And so just getting on an episode was hard sometimes. And I went from being definitely the class clown and kind of in my own way, like, consider myself like a big star at NYU to being among this unbelievable group of performers and feeling very insecure and losing my confidence because I'm like, wow, these guys are incredible as writers, as actors. And so it was a good, it definitely motivated me to work my ass off and try to get better and try to understand how to do what I do. And I don't feel like I felt like I learned a lot and got better and better. I gravitated toward more directing and editing at that time. And then I think in years after the state, I was able to integrate my confidence and my ability to get out of my own way as a writer and as an actor more and more as well. And I consider all those things not separate. They're all very much part of the same process for me. Yeah. So yeah, it was good. And yes, obviously we were a group of 11 people that all more taught each other than anything else. Like we didn't have a mentor. We didn't have teachers really. We weren't part of some big organization like Second City or anything. We just kind of figured it out together and taught each other and learned from watching each other. And so I think that might have been a great soup for what it was. And as it turns out, all of us ended up staying in the business and for the most part and doing great things. And we still work together and we're still friends. And it's kind of very fortunate.
Now, you had mentioned a 21-minute show with 11 people, and you're all writing. Was there a conscious effort to say, hey, we need to get as many of us in on a sketch as we can to let everybody shine? Or was it like, hey, we're only going to get 3 or 4 people in, hope for the best if you can or can't get on?
Well, we always like to do sketches that incorporate the whole group just because it was fun. And it was like, oh, this is one that everybody's in. But there was some effort to be like, oh, wait a minute. Hey, this guy's not even in the show this week. Let's figure out something. But it was also very competitive. It was also just like,
right.
And we also, I think one of the formulas to make it good was that we were brutal with each other's material and tried not to take it personally, but we would tear things apart so they would get better. And people would bring into the pitch meetings a sketch 3, 4, 5 times, keep writing. And, we're like, nope, not good enough yet, and then we also had a big kill ratio, which was huge. We wrote dozens of sketches for everyone that we shot. And then of the ones we shot, we cut out a lot of those. So we felt like that kind of process helped us have the best stuff.
Nice.
And I mean, you brought up 11 members again, and like some of these members have gone on to do, like, as you said, amazing things like Reno 911, and like Ken's on Bob's Burgers with you and other projects, Mike Showalter and Michael Ian Black and Stella. Like the 11 were incredible, and like they still are like names that if you see them go on the screen, you know who they are, and it's just amazing to see them.
Yeah, it's a wild group, and I definitely feel like the first show that the group did, I was not in. And I remember going to see it and being like, my God, these people are just incredible. And this was when everyone was 18 years old, you know? So yeah, I'm very lucky to have this association.
And I know you guys said you like tried to balance as much as you could and things like that. What are some of your fondest memories when it comes to this, looking back at like the state and working with that, just starting out with that group?
I think, you know, just the fact that all these experiences we shared together. So when something funny or good or exciting happened, we all got to celebrate it together instead of just being like not having that. And so we spent a lot of our free time together too. Like we would go to work, we'd go to the bar, we'd go hang out, and you know, a lot of our shoots were like driving across to New Jersey, and we'd be in the van together making jokes and having fun. And those are some of the great memories. And just being kind of a band of rebels in our own minds was exciting, you know. And we were also in New York and just running around the streets and we were really kids. And so it was a very special, fond memory. And the fact that we still today in our mid 50s still work together. We just went on tour together last year, and we can continue to have those memories and that shared vocabulary together is also really cool.
It is special.
In 1997, after this, you started a new project with Michael Ian Black and Michael Showalter called Stella, which you performed at the Fez, a New York City comedy club, until it closed in 2005. Was this a natural progression from your previous group, or how did this particular group come about?
It was very sort of organic and accidental. It's just that Michael and I had been the three of the people in the state that had gravitated towards the kind of alternative stand-up scene that was just starting up, growing in New York. Mm-hmm. And the people that were there, it was just in a bar in Chelsea. And the people that were there every week were Mark Maron, Louis C.K., Janine Garofalo, Todd Barry. It was like insane.
Yeah.
Zach Galifianakis. It was just like one after the other, after the other, after the other. It was an incredible scene. And everyone was doing some version of not regular stand-up, whether it's doing a character or storytelling or just something different in some way. And Michael and I loved it. And we got into that scene and we're performers and hosts in it. And then we just had this idea. What if the idea was like, people are like doing their bits with a paper in their hand or first drafts, like, you know, and we're like, what if there was, this scene deserves its own like real night out, like a big full show, not just like go to the bar. And so we approached Fez, which was not a comedy club. Actually, it was a lounge that had mostly jazz shows and stuff like that.
Okay.
Had all these like red booths and martinis, that kind of thing. And so that's why we were like, let's have a fancy, cool night out where you order martini. And we said, let's wear suits, you know, because it'll be like it's formal, you know. And that's how that started. And then we just were the three separate hosts of that show, and we gravitated a little by little to doing bits, all three of us together on stage. And then at a certain point along the way, we started making these little shorts. Like the day of the show, we would shoot a little video to show during the show, and the shorts took on a life of their own. And then eventually those shorts were the basis for the pitch for the TV series we ended up doing on Comedy Central.
Nice. Well, that actually covered everything we had there. One question I did have, and maybe this is something we just want to keep secret, or maybe I just don't know, but where did the name Stella come from?
Oh, it's not a secret. When we went to this Fez nightclub, we met with the woman who books it and asked, talked about doing this weekly show. And we talked about all the details and it sounded very excited. And she said, so what's the name of the show? And we're like, oh, I don't know. And she was very, very pregnant at the time. Okay. And we're like, well, what's your baby going to be named? And she said, Stella. And we were like, well, that's the name of the show. And that's how it happened.
It's funny. We had a writer from the Great North on, and he used to be in an R&B group, and they were in a talent show, and they didn't have a group name. And then the talent person who was signing them up came up, said, hey, what's your group name? And they panicked and they said, For Now. And it's like, okay, 4 now. And like, no, that's not her name. And then from there on, they just went by 4 now.
Yep.
So
he said it got weird when there was just 3 people.
Yeah.
They had to figure that out, but they worked with it.
Yeah.
And I just have to say, when you said David, Michael, and Michael, it immediately made me think of Stella with the Mr. David, Mr. Michael, and Mr. Michael. That me and my brother would just watch the one episode in particular where you guys are farming in the apartment.
Oh yeah,
and the vegetables. And I just remember him being like, Mr. Michael, would you like some water? And then just like, this is so ridiculous, but I absolutely loved it.
I mean, I loved doing that. We who knows all the reasons why I did get picked up, but it was really a bummer. I wish we could have made more of those.
Would there be a comeback maybe?
I mean, I would do it anytime. I think getting all 3 to coordinate in that
Schedules.
way is tough, but who knows?
Okay. Let's jump to 2001 with a great other project that I at least know I love, and I'm sure there's a huge cult following for, but it's one of your biggest productions up to this date, and it's your first feature film. It's Wet Hot American Summer, and this time you brought a lot of friends from the state and Stella, and a lot of the comedians you listed that were at the Fez with you.
I don't remember this one.
It was a small little project.
Small project.
Yes. Okay, the summer
very
camp.
small.
Yeah. There you go.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. What was the question?
What was it like to write and direct your first movie and this project and get it off the ground?
It was, again, a lot of ignorance, which said it. Michael Showalter and I had tried to write a slightly more conventional romantic comedy and kind of give up at a certain point. And we're like, let's just shoot something right now. And what can we shoot that's like, we don't need any lights for, because it can be like all during the day outside and one location, one day, and just get our friends, and that was sort of the impetus. Like, and what's the most organic topic that we both feel like is exactly the right place for something that we would want to do? And camp was quite obvious for us. And then we didn't shoot it right away. It took us 3 years of actually then really writing a script and searching for financing and having a million close calls over a long time. But then when we finally got to do it, it was magical and exciting. And I had never been on I had never directed a crew in a real way. Like all the directing I had done on the state was like me holding my own camera and just being like, hey, let's do this. And so I had to ask the first AD, like, what do I do? How do I say action or what, but we knew that it was going to be a fun project, but we couldn't possibly guess the true perfect storm of like the people that ended up all in it together and how it all came together. And it just was the making of it, the shooting was extremely fun and special. And then of course it was a huge bomb. It hugely, and then we just sort of, okay, moving on. And then little by little, people start discovering it first on DVD, and then it just keeps going. It's just it has become part of the canon. It's very gratifying.
When it did come out and in your words bombed, did you think, oh, this is it, we're done? Those things ain't cheap to make. Do you like, I can't do this again? We shot our shot and we flew too close to the sun, or like, oh, we'll just dust ourselves off and try again?
I guess for better or worse, the latter. I just felt like, this is what you do, and I've had many bombs and many failures in my career. And I feel like it's, if something like that is going to make you quit, then you should quit, but that's just not how it worked for my brain. And I think that's why I still do this, and I do think there are many easier ways to make a lot of money, and that was never my main priority. Right. And therefore I've made far, far less money than most of my peers. But I feel like I've had a long career and a fulfilling career because I've chosen to do things that I care about, and I've stuck with them for years and years, even if people say no. And like our movie, They Came Together, I drummed the beat for 10 years before somebody gave me 2 cents to make that movie. And I've done that. I keep doing that all the time when I care about something. And yeah, people saying no, whether it's an audience or a financier or a producer, you just, if you can't worry about it too much.
It sounds like you have a lot of friends that I like to call why not friends. You have a lot of people that say, why would you want to do that? Why would you do that? And you have other friends who say, why not? Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Screw how much it costs or what can happen. Let's just do it.
I never heard it put that way, but yes, absolutely. And I think surrounding yourself with the why not people is the whole idea. And yeah, for example, a producer that I worked with for many, many years, John Stern, I always thought was so great because no matter what dumb idea came up, he's like, great, let's do it. How do we do it? Let's figure it out. Let's do it today, not tomorrow, today. You know, make the call. And then that's what I call, that's a great way of thinking about producing. It's just like, you know, and then because most people in the entertainment industry are so full of it and so lazy also, and just not, you know, somebody says, yeah, that sounds great. And then like 6 months later, they're like, what was that thing again?
Yeah. They're also too scared to try. It's like, well, nobody else has done that. Why? We don't want to kick the door down.
Right.
It could fail. And
I'm definitely a big believer in saying, like, you know, yeah, the fact that it's always been done this way is never compelling reason to do anything for me.
Yeah. No, and I know you said it was a bomb, but we got a lot of our audience members saying, no, it was great. We absolutely love Wet Hot American Summer.
I mean, it was a financial failure. I don't think it was a bomb. I loved it too. I love that movie. I actually went to see it at a movie theater like a year ago with my son, who is 16, and I loved it. So no, I wasn't saying that the movie is a failure.
Of course.
Yeah. But it did make under $300,000 in the box office. Total.
Okay. money, not everything. Like I said, audience, if you're listening, surround yourself with why nots instead of whys, and you'll be fine.
I mean, if anything, it just shot so many people into the light of just being seen.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, and the coincidence of giving Elizabeth Banks her first job and Bradley Cooper his first job, and you know, it was amazing. What can I say?
Now, was Wet Hot, was that based on any personal experience, or did you kind of, like, I never went to summer camp, so I know I couldn't write that story.
Yeah, no, both Michael and I had gone to summer camps that were overlapping in what they were all about, Jewish summer camps in the Northeast. And we just sat and barfed out every memory we could think of, every thought, every, you know, it was a lot of like, oh, this happened at my camp, or what if there was blah, blah, blah. And that's literally how we wrote it. We just came up with a giant list of like ideas, seeds, storylines, characters, jokes, you know, and then just spent years just kind of then cobbling it. Okay, this could be this character. Oh, those two things could be combined into this character. This could be what happens there. This could be more of a central thing. Da, da, da. I was inspired always by movies like that take place in a set amount of time in a set place, like Nashville or Days of Confused or Do the Right Thing. And so we actually, it was the whole summer long storyline. And then somewhere in the middle of writing it, we moved it all to the last day of camp to just condense it even more. And that's, I don't even remember the question, but that's what happened.
Is there a particular character in the movie that you're like, that's totally me?
Well, I mean, the Coop character was kind of what, to some degree, both Michael and I were at camp. Like, we were like, you know, liked, but not the coolest kids, you know, and definitely, and, you know, yearned for the hot girl that was not even in reach. And there were certain things about that character that I would say were the most overlapping with who I was at camp. But as the cliche goes, there's a little bit of each of us in every character.
Good,
and then, so I know you said it was great to give like Elizabeth Banks and like Bradley Cooper their first jobs. What was it like to pitch this to those people? Were they like more than eager to jump in, like, yeah, totally, I want to do this? Or were
to pitch it to Elizabeth Banks, or no? They just auditioned off the street. I mean, we were holding auditions, and they came in and auditioned.
Oh, was anyone ever apprehensive? Like, nah, I don't think I want to do that.
I mean, not that we ever heard about, because they probably wouldn't have come to the audition.
That's true.
It's weird asking a question like that because we know Elizabeth Banks now, so it's hard to picture her as like, oh, first role. She'll do anything. Same with everyone else. So, because we've always asked questions about like Lauren Bouchard, and was like, "Oh, how was Lauren back in Dr. Katz?" Is like, well, he was just
like
just
an
Lauren.
18-year-old kid.
Yeah,
right.
So
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I mean, Bradley Cooper was still in school. I mean, he missed his graduation from acting school to be in Wet Hot.
I think it worked out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it wasn't for that, he would have been a total unemployed loser the rest of his life.
Yes, that's exactly. If anything, you should have a letter from Bradley saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome, Brad.
But it was, anyway.
So, as Bob's and of course John Benjamin fans, how did you pitch the idea of him playing the camp cook who was turned into a can of mixed vegetables?
Well, John was definitely one of the big characters on that scene we were talking about earlier. He and Sam Cedar did all these great bits of different kinds, and he was always really out there. And he also did stuff with Mike Lee, this guy named Mike Lee. His sense of humor was always really just hit me hard. And then he did this movie with Sam Cedar called Who's the Caboose, which again, just made me laugh so hard all the time. And then around that time he was doing Dr. Katz. And I think his cadence, it just seemed like the perfect thing. We were like, hey, will you do this? I honestly don't even remember I don't even know if we knew that it was going to be him when we shot it. He certainly was not there on set, but yeah.
And as you said, this film definitely picked up a cult following with the DVD and I remember being on like Comedy Central and VH1 and a lot of other different stations would play it later at night. It got such a huge following that at some point in 2015, it was picked up for a small mini series for 8 episodes. And then again in 2017 for 10 years later. What was it like to revisit and to come back to Wet Hot?
Sort of a similar thing. It was such a trip. I had avoided or not been sure about revisiting it because it was so special. And I've seen so many reboots and sequels or prequels that were lame and felt like there was so many pitfalls about like trying to recapture who you were as an artist back then, or to like, or are you regurgitating something that was there? You know, how do you chart out new territory, but also satisfy the desire to see this same world again? Like just a lot of things that are hard. But I think, after thinking about it a lot and working with Mike on it, we came up with the version that we thought was cool. And it was right at the time when Netflix was a pretty new thing. And we had first thought about it as a movie, but then we're like, oh, this could be like an 8-show thing on Netflix. And then they were amazing and said yes. And it was so much fun all over again. And this time the original movie was shot at a real summer camp in Pennsylvania when we all lived in New York. Now we lived in California, and we shot it on a ranch in Malibu and tried to recreate the same look and feel with mostly a new crew. And it was a cool and fun challenge to do that. And then of course, having the same actors 15 years later playing the same age in the same summer.
Yeah.
Was everybody on board to come back 15 years later?
Amazingly, yes. I mean, there was not a lot of cajoling. It was basically like, everyone's like, yeah, tell me when.
Nice. Yeah, because at that point, everybody's kind of well into their careers. And more established.
Scheduling was an absolute
nightmare.
True, utter nightmare. I mean, the way we were able to do it from my manager at the time, who was a producer of the show, Peter Pinspato, did a great job of like getting everyone on board, and everyone had to understand that there's no hierarchy in this. Like everyone who's in the original movie is getting the exact same amount, and just because we had to if we had to negotiate with each person based on how big they think they are at this point, it would have been a nightmare. But scheduling was truly one of the craziest things I've ever been involved in. So, we'd had like, this actor can only be here the first week, this actor can only be here the last week, even though they have a bunch of scenes together. So we just said, screw it, we'll just make it work and shoot one side on this day and one side on that day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna jump to our bread and butter here on From North to Wharf. We're huge Bob's Burgers fans, so of course we have some questions about your involvement in the show, playing Courtney Wheeler, and of course Grover Fischoeder.
Which no one's ever asked me about, honestly, so that's good.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool. Very
Sweet.
cool.
So obviously we were first introduced to you as Courtney Wheeler in, I believe it was season 3, the episode "The Unbearable Likeness of Jean." How did the opportunity to play a 13-year-old girl come about?
It was really thrilling to me because this is not something that ever happens to me, but I just got an offer out of the blue to come and play this part. And I know I have been friendly for many years before Bob's Burgers started with John Schrader.
Yes.
Who's one of the main guys.
John,
there.
yeah.
And I had lightly known a couple of the other writers, I think, in different places. But so yeah, I guess they just were like, "Hey, I think they wrote it with me in mind, possibly."
Oh, nice.
Why I don't know actually. I don't know that for a fact. But
We'll find out.
But why they thought of me and without even, no audition or anything, I don't know. But I'm so grateful. And we went in on that first recording session and we're like, "So what should this be?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I just started doing that voice. And they actually, I do the voice and then they pitch it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times I would have like just a pen in my mouth for short. It sounds like a cherry on my necklace.
Yeah.
And definitely super fun. And I'm always excited to go in there. And every time I go, it's always laughing a lot and just like sort of, and also a lot of times you're in this room with the other actors, which is so rare.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you know. And that's always so fun. And it's also fun, as we've said, like these are so many of the actors on Bob's Burgers are people that I've crossed paths with at different points over the many years. So it's always like, "Oh, good to see you. And how are you?" And so yeah, it's always fun to go back into that world. And of course, they're working on it 24/7 and I walk in for an hour every few months or whatever. And it's
Now, were you a fan of the show or at least aware of the show before they pitched you the character?
not really.
That's okay.
That wouldn't be the first time we've heard that. That wouldn't be the first time.
Not at all.
I have since come to deeply love the show and appreciate like the sharpness of the writing and everything about it is just amazing. And I'm also became just a huge fan of Lauren just as a guy and as a creative, and just he's really impressive, interesting, cool dude.
Mm.
A lot of people we've had the privilege of talking to who are voice actors say they love going in for Bob's, just as you said, because everyone's there and you just play off of each other, and it's just like having.
And
fun.
also, let's be honest, it's a pretty easy job compared to almost anything else.
You've also heard that too. Like, if I could do voice work forever, yeah, I would do that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's great. I think everyone would love to be John Benjamin. But yeah, no, it's. I really hope my dryer stops dinging, or I might have to run over there.
Oh, we're not hearing it if it makes you feel better.
I know, but I am.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I was like, we don't hear. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it's super fun. It's always like, and you come in and also, that you've walked in, and by the time you walk in, they've gone over these scripts a lot, and they're so tight and they're so well crafted and clever. And so you're never worried like, "Oh, is this going to be terrible?" Or, like so often you're, as an actor, as a voice actor, or if you're auditioning for something, 99% of the time you're like, "Oh God, what am I going to do with this? How do I make something out of this garbage?" And here it's the opposite. You're like, "How do I hopefully serve this writing that's so good?"
Well,
it's easier to act. It's so much easier to act when writing is good.
Yeah. Well, that actually tees up the next question. Obviously you see the role. Okay, it's a 11, 12-year-old middle school girl. Obviously, I am a grown man. How did you approach voicing this character, and where did the voice come from?
I mean, I wish I could say there was any thought to it. But I think I'm actually trying to remember I remember I mean, it was all in the moment in the room.
Yeah.
Kind of. And I think there was maybe there was some discussion for like 2 minutes not that day, maybe on the phone or something. I don't know, but I really just read the words and I was like, oh, she sounds like this, and I'm just kind of. And they were like, yes, do that. I was like, okay.
Don't change anything. Yeah.
Any chance, and feel free to say no, any chance we could hear Courtney pre-shifted?
Yes. Okay. What does she say? Hi, Gene. What are you two doing today?
Okay, so it's not terribly far off from what you.
No, I think it's very subtle.
It's very subtle up.
I raise my own voice, but yeah, and then I think they raise it just a tiny bit more.
Oh yeah, it's so close.
It's interesting because a lot of times they'll, depending on what the specific scenes and processes, they will pre-temp the voice before the actor comes in.
Yep.
Often with Lauren's voice, and
he,
it's
exactly
the same
version.
Does the perfect, and all the writers know how to imitate all the voices perfectly because that's just where they live with 24/7.
Now, as much as we love Courtney, you were also given another role in the show as Grover Fischoeder, the attorney and cousin of Calvin and Felix. Right. Before the movie, we were introduced in an episode. What was it like to be approached to play a new character? And was this written for you, or did you kind of audition for this one?
Again, was super flattered. And I think this one, I think they definitely had me in mind for from the beginning. I think that they were, I don't know this, but my theory was they really were playing the long game of they're going to have this character that they establish in the show.
Yeah.
And then we can give spoilers, I imagine.
Yeah.
And then
I think they've watched
they'll put him in the movie, but so that people don't see ahead of it, it was a previous character from the show, voiced by someone who has some association with the show, but then gets put in jail and sent away at the end, so that, and they were like, I feel like they were like, they somehow like I was the right level of person in the show to play the part that is going to go away.
No, we've heard that before. That Grover appearing in the episode was kind of like hey, we just need to introduce this guy here, so when you see him in the movie, you're not totally shocked trying to figure out who it is. So,
or you might not stick out like a sore thumb, like, oh, he's got to be the bad guy because he
exactly, yeah,
right. And so it was fun, and in the original episodes that I was in, my goal was more than anything to make it sure it sounded nothing like Courtney. Mm-hmm. And I experimented again, probably for 5 minutes with Lauren in the room, and ended up doing something that sounds much closer to my own real voice. I mean, basically my own voice, just and delivering in a certain way. Yeah. And so that's what that turned out to be. And then of course, when the movie process started, I mean, he kept just sort of hinting at me like, there's going to be a movie and there might be a part, there might be something, and I didn't know what was going to happen because, Courtney's not in the movie. Except for like just seen in a moment in the classroom, I think, in the credits. But and so and then he was like, "Can you sing?" I was like, "I mean, I like to sing, but I can't honestly say I can sing for a professional movie." And he's like, "Well, do you think you could sing like an incredibly impossible to sing falsetto song that's like nowhere even close to in anybody's range?" And I was like, "No, can't do that." He's like, "Why don't you just test it out?" And so I tested it out on my home microphone, and it was disastrous. And and I was like, I sent him another version. I'm like, here I am singing it not falsetto and in a key that I think I can sing in. And he was like, "Yeah, no, you can do it." And I was like, "Well, you got to hire me a voice coach, like a vocal coach." And he did. And so I worked with a vocal coach, you believe it or not, for a while. Great guy, and had a great time. I loved the whole experience. Of course, it still was terrible.
Well, not only do you have to hit the notes there, but the pacing of the song is a little quicker, especially for somebody who's not 100% with comfortable with their voice. So to hit the flow and the cadence and the notes, I mean, you nailed it. 10 out of 10. No notes here.
I mean,
that Lauren leaned into the joke too. Like when you're like, I can't do that, I can't do this, like this, and that. But he had a very much like a vision in mind. And then in the movie, the family's just kind of like, what is he singing about? Like they can't even hear it either. And they're like, what are your plans again?
So I know, I think it is really funny. And also I have to say, like, I've come to appreciate the fact that he does. I don't think, a lot of times when you do something musical, and they've done this for me in other parts of the show, they sweeten it and they fix it and they make it better and they cut it up so that it's like, sounds really great. I don't think they did that so much because I think they wanted it to kind of sound terrible.
Yeah.
It had a huge laugh at the premiere we went to. Everyone just started laughing.
Yeah, no, it's really a weird. I love it. Also, he also asked me, he's like, will you dance to the whole song on a video?
Yes.
Which I did. I was at my girlfriend at the time at some like beach house somewhere, and I was just like put on the camera and did this crazy dance. And then they ended up using like a lot of my moves, like almost the whole thing is all like my body movement. It's really funny. But
you got some killer moves. You nailed it.
I mean, the whole movie was done during COVID, 100%. And so
it
was very weird way to do it. I did a lot of the voice for just like this from home. And then they sort of did a lot of they redid a lot of it in the studio. But even then it was, you're completely alone. You're not with anybody else. And it was just, it was just a different way of doing the process. Like that, the whole movie was fully temped before they brought the actors in, really. And then it was interesting, but it was cool. And it was really interesting to see how they did some of that advanced animation stuff. And I was asking a lot of questions just because it was fascinating to me.
Yeah. More than a handful of people in the chat saying that the dance was one of their favorite parts of the movie. So,
I'm happy to hear that.
So as a Fischoeder, of course, you played the cousin to Calvin and Felix. What is it like to work against or with Kevin and Zach?
I mean, I'm massive fans of both of them.
Yeah.
Kevin Kline, I grew up just like idolizing in a million different ways. And then Zach is a friend of mine who I knew at that same time in the 90s in New York. And we've worked together. He was in our Stella shorts, and he's just somebody I've known over the years, although I haven't seen him in quite a while actually. But I have never seen them in the context of Bob's Burgers at any time. And in fact, I don't think I knew that it was Kevin Kline. I don't think I knew that either of them were those two guys.
It's weird because if you listen to, especially for me, Felix, it's like I can't picture Zach's voice.
Yeah,
it's subtle.
It is, and I don't know when in the process I even realized that they were the two other guys that I was doing this with, but that's the weirdness of animation in that way. But what I love about Bob's Burgers in large part is that normally it's not like that. You actually are looking at the other person and you are interacting with them in a real way. And I think that when it's not COVID, that is the better way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like they've slowly gotten back to doing in-person groups, especially in the recordings, at least from what we've been told.
Yeah, slowly but surely it's coming back.
Good to know.
Yeah. So, as we all know, at the end of the movie, Grover is in jail for his crimes, but do you think at the end Grover will be back to cause mayhem for Bob and his family again, or do you think that character is kind of he's done?
I'm hoping that Grover has his own series of movies.
Maybe like a Prison Break-esque series featuring Grover.
Yeah,
is this David Wain writing, directing, and
that's how it works. I would like
shorts.
I would like them to create a primetime network series of Grover and also a series of movies. The movies would be live action starring me.
In every role? Are you going to like Eddie Murphy it or?
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
Grover is the second cartoon character that seems to be visually modeled on me as well, along with the warden from Super Jail.
Yes.
Both just sort of like nerdy, balding guys with glasses,
3-hour gym bods. Yes.
So obviously, we're not going to ask for any spoilers, but we have season 15 coming up here in about a little month and a half. Will we be seeing any Courtney or Grover, or maybe any new characters voiced by yourself?
I'm going to give you my true, honest answer, which is I have no idea because they do it so far ahead of time.
Yeah.
That I can't even remember when is what. You know, it feels like a year or so, right? Or it's so long.
It takes about 6 to 7 months for them to produce a whole episode. So by the time they do work on it, we see it a year later, and
I know I've been in there at some point, sometime in the last some period of time, but I just don't even remember.
Fair enough.
I was just like, you had the best rehearsed answer for that question. Just like maybe, but what is time?
What is time?
It's like that's.
I think there's something really small. That's my honest answer, but I'm not sure.
Fair enough. That's fine. And we won't ask what character. We'll let the audience simmer on that and let them go wild with speculation.
Yes. All right. So your recent project that we know about and have seen you post about quite a bit is this middle-aged dad jam band that started up in COVID. What was it? What was the process of starting this up? What got it going? And how did you get so many people to just hang out in your garage and jam?
Well, I would say just like literally every other good thing that I've done, it just sort of happened accidentally and organically, which is truly, really the way that so many things that I've done have started without a lot of intention at the start, which is just that I moved to a house that had a garage in it. And I've always played around on the drums, but never had really a space to set them up.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I had always felt like, hey, let's have jam sessions, And so I invited my other middle-aged dad friends over to just, hey, let's play this Rolling Stones song, whatever, and we just, I just put up an iPhone and put some clips of it on Instagram, and then people were like, oh, this is awesome, and different friends came over, and eventually, after not too long, we got well, actually, it was the San Francisco Sketch Fest was like, David, what do you want to do? And I'm like, how about we do the jam band? And so we just did a show, and then it sort of, and we also did a couple shows like in our guitar player Frank's driveway, and it just sort of became like, it was like, well, this is pretty good, and then we ended up touring the whole country and doing a lot of stuff. And now we're making a bunch of YouTube videos, and it's been a blast. It's like just like different revolving group of people and playing rock and roll. It's like living out, 11-year-old fantasy in my 50s.
Now I saw, as a failed drummer myself, this question is more for me, but do you have a preference between electronic or acoustic drum sets?
Well, I much prefer an acoustic drum set in terms of just how cool it is and how it sounds and everything about it. However, I actually don't own one. And I'm working towards that. But the electric set is far more convenient. And if you're playing in a very crowded garage with a bunch of people, playing as loud as real drums is really tough. And so our home set is electric, but whenever we tour, they provide the drums, and I always make sure they give me a real drum set.
Now, for anyone who's seen the project on YouTube, you've had insane guests join your jam band. Do you have a favorite guest or a dream guest that you haven't had yet?
I mean, there's a lot of both, but it's I mean, it's really great having our close friends come, and like Joe Latruglio and the people that we love, and then of course, I mean, there's some really fun ones coming up in our YouTube videos that we're going to be doing, and of course, having Weird Al Yankovic.
Of course,
he's obviously, I'm 55, and when I was 11, I was listening to him on Dr. Demento and just like fanboying and just going. I played his records over and over and over again on my Fisher-Price record player, and when I was very young. And now he's like a guy in my garage, and we're playing music together, and it's insane. And so that's probably the most exciting guest we've had. And then and it's fun to think about all the people we could ask. Yeah, it's cool.
Now, I know we're coming up on your heart out here, so I think we just have a couple more questions. One comment in the comment section here from our friend Abby, producer Abby. Nobody has mentioned it, but I loved you as Dan in Superstore. You were so funny.
Oh, thank you. That was another, especially as a writer and director and producer, when you get asked to just play a small part in something, it's the best because it's feels like a vacation in a way. You're mostly waiting around and chatting with the other actors, and it doesn't have the stress of the whole show on it. And that Superstore show also, like, underrated how incredibly well written that is, and I really enjoyed that experience.
JB, I've been yapping a lot. I'll let you take it.
Okay. So my question, just for everybody who might be into the jam band, would be like, where can we find your music? Is there merch that we can get? Because as a dad, it'd be fun to have a dad jam band.
Not only is there merch, there's great merch. And our website is MADJB, Middle Aged Dad Jam Band. MADJB.com.
Very cool. Then I definitely have to have one.
Find us at Mad Jam Band. We're very easy to find. Instagram, all over the place. YouTube. MADJB.com. And we have really cool shirts and hats and, mugs and stuff. And also check out our YouTube series and subscribe to that. But are you guys not going to talk about my new TV show that comes out the day after tomorrow?
Actually, no, we heard you had a heart out, so we got to get X, Y, and Z in. You are shooting a little project with Stephen Curry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's coming out. I don't have the date in front of me. It's tomorrow, right?
It's the day after, the 8th.
The 8th, the day after tomorrow. How did that come about? Because he is a professional basketball player. I've seen him do little things here and there, but how does he now front an entire series?
Basically, Steph Curry, who, by the way, I have since found out is one of the most funny, charismatic, confident, cool, generous actors you're going to ever work with. He's so great. But basically he and his wife, I think, had some sort of reality show, and Adam Pally was on it, and they really hit it off. And so they sort of pitched around with these other creators, Casp and Libmans, and came up with this idea of a show that they pitched, which is essentially that Adam Pally and Steph Curry are childhood best friends, and Adam Pally was going to be the Jewish Jordan, the biggest basketball player, and then turns out that Steph became that, and now Adam is like this, con man, merchandise, memorabilia dealer in Chicago, and they reconnect, and all these funny things happen, and it's this incredible show with those two at the head of it, along with Ego Wodum from SNL and Tracy Letts and Rich Sommer and Aidan Mayer. It's an incredible, incredible cast. And it was such a cool, weird, awesome blast of a show to make. And I think people are going to love it. I hope they do.
I saw the trailer, and at the end, it kind of teases that Adam's there for maybe not the best reason. So I am curious as to what his little twist there is.
Motives,
Yeah, there's a lot of fun twists and turns throughout the whole thing. And it's also just, it's just cool because Steph Curry's playing himself.
Yes.
But like it all weirdly works. I mean, I directed the whole thing. It's 6 episode thing.
All episodes released at once, or is this weekly?
So, yeah. I think it all comes out Thursday. So you can just sit down and watch it all. Let me know what you think.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
It's funny. Every time I see Steph Curry, if he's not on the court, he's either on stage singing with Paramore, or he's golfing, or he's bowling, or he's doing a million different things. And now he's acting.
Like, building a hospital somewhere, or
he seems to be the nicest guy in the world. So it's nice.
$1 in some other thing. Yeah, it's incredible. He really is a very impressive dude, and he also seems to spend a ton of time just hanging out with his family, and and also we were doing these rigorous shoot days with him, and then he would like leave and go work out, and then he would go do basketball practice, and then he would go do a signing, and then he would travel to who knows where. It was wild.
Yeah, dude's a workhorse.
Yes, he is.
No, and
oh man, was to say,
But it was cool. It was he loved being part of the comedy thing, and like he loved seeing how people improv and learning and asking questions. He was just like he just sort of like jumped into our world for the time he was there, and then he went off into the Olympics.
Yeah, his side gig, basketball. Now, for everybody who's curious, it is streaming on Peacock, and I have a date of August 9th.
You are incorrect.
Okay.
It is August 8th. Thursday, August 8th.
Okay, on streaming on Peacock.
Yes.
I get that part. Okay.
That's PEA cock.
PEA cock. David, I know you've given us so much of your time. I know we got a tight schedule to keep to, but again, we want to thank you so much.
How many times are you going to mention the hard out? Like, is it that? Like, I mean, we don't have to talking about it.
We're just trying to respect.
we just want to respect it. We didn't want our audience to like. Why did they just stop there?
As it happens, I'm going motorcycling with a certain Mr. Tom Cruise. Okay.
As you. Oh, that's fine.
Please,
that's fine.
Please be safe. He's known to.
I'm in Paris right now.
Stuff.
Yeah, you tell him to answer our texts. We keep texting him. He's been such a jerk about everything. But no. Before we let you go, of course, is there anything other than Mr. Throwback that you think the audience should know about or look into, or anything you'd like to plug beyond Mr. Throwback?
Kamala Harris, great lady. Check her out. She's on Instagram, I think.
Okay. Is that Harris with 2 R's?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that if I could.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate that.
No, those are those are my front-facing things at the moment. The Middle-Aged Dad Jam Band and Mr. Throwback. And
nice.
But definitely, if you enjoyed this at all, if you've made it this far, go to our Middle-Aged Dad Jam Band website, get our mailing list, where you'll find out about all things David Wain, whether it's the state or things happening, more touring with that, or the new show or the band and new projects that we haven't even been conceived yet.
Yes. DavidWain.com for all of you out there.
That's it.
Very easy to remember.
WAIN. Maybe not how you would think to, but you see it right there underneath my name.
Yes. Right there, everybody. We wrote it down for you.
That's right down there.
Well, on behalf of our audience, who I know had a blast doing this, on behalf of JB and myself, we again can't thank you enough.
Yes.
Hopefully this isn't the last time our paths cross, but again,
is there a chat here?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, after this, I'll go on the chat for a minute.
Okay, everybody. Once we end this, the stream ends, the chat ends. So if you want to,
fuck that.
Okay, well, no, it's fine. Fuck that. Fuck that. You're right, David.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Did you want to take a second, maybe a question or two from the audience?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody, if you have a question, I know some of you do, feel free to toss it in the chat, and David will answer.
This is so interesting. I'm just going on to see what it is. Looks like. Oh, I see. There I am, right on YouTube.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, and I see. There's the chat. How interesting.
Yes, I don't know what it looks like to a guest. I know on our end we see the whole chat because it's a little block that you can pull up and see everything. So,
somebody named Crayon Spiral said, "Laughing my ass off. Thank you, David." Now, isn't that fun?
Let's see. Questions.
It says, I already sent mine. You'll have to scroll up. Oh my God. Just write it again.
Yeah, just come on, just type it, everybody. David's saying type it. If you don't type it, David's leaving.
I'm so glad this worked out and you could stop by. Oh, come on. You can do better than that.
Come on. Out of the 2 characters that you voiced who are reoccurring on Bob's, Courtney and Grover, who do you like voicing more?
Well, Courtney's more fun just because it's so different than my own voice, I would say. Grover is sort of a straight man in a way, although it was doing the song was definitely its own sort of separate, fun, crazy project. I wish there's a much longer version of that song actually, that they cut it way down because it was just so much gobbledygook exposition, and I wish they would actually release the longer one just because it's so funny. It's so weirdly long.
Did you record the full version, or was it just lyrics? And we're going to cut this.
I think we did definitely cut the. Yes, I know that we did.
Oh boy! Now you're going to have folks scouring the internet asking us. We need the 5-minute, 10-minute long version cut of that.
Do that. Good. Make it demand. Make them release it.
A lot of people asking for Grover to come back. that they're hoping. One person brought up, I hope that Calvin and them bail him out or let him have a day off where he basically tries to kill them in their mansion. It's like
I
that
love
could
it.
be
Or what if he helps coordinate an escape from prison?
Or that's his pen pal is Courtney.
Yeah. Anyway,
One question we have here from Aaron, who's actually one of the animators on the show. He wants to know, was the necklace in the mouth your idea or for Courtney?
I think that it was in the script that she's sucking on the necklace, I think. But it was my idea to use a pen instead because I didn't have a necklace.
Yeah.
It's
Am I allowed to mention Sheep in the Big City again? Because I love that show and find it really cool that you worked on Bob's Burgers. Okay. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love that show too.
Middle-aged dad jam band.
David is terrific.
I assume unprompted wrote David is terrific.
Wow, how cool.
Yeah, it was super cool.
AI is crazy now. How good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I guess if you're in the chat, you could just click on that and subscribe to Middle Aged Dad Jam Band.
Hey, everybody, did you hear that?
You could do it.
Click on it. You're over on YouTube already.
Anyway, this has been a blast, you guys. Thank you.
Yes. No, thank you.
Thank you.
And like I said, hopefully this isn't the last time our paths cross, and we'd love to chat with you about anything, anytime. So
Thank you again,
Awesome.
Mr. David.
Have a wonderful night.
all right, good night.
Take care.
Have a good one.
There you go, everybody.
Yeah, you guys.
Sorry, we weren't able to get to everybody's questions. Like I said, we had to try to fit as much as we can in. But hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you had fun.
Yeah, hope so. It was a lot of fun just finally getting to see him because I grew up on Stella and all that stuff and being like, oh my God, it's Mr. David.
Aaron says, I animated a lot of Grover shots in the movie. Loved working with you. Did you animate the extended cut of the song, Aaron, or was it by the time it got to you, it was
down? Oh, Homer, we'll talk. We'll find ways to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Before we wrap up here, next week we are going to do trivia.
Yep.
So we're gonna do trivia. We haven't figured out all the parameters of what we're doing there, but figured we'd announce it now. So next week trivia, and then do we announce our plans post trivia now, or do we hold off?
We can hold off for a little bit. We can figure out how to formulate all that.
Cool. Chelsea, I'm so glad this interview happened. So are we.
Same, yeah. This is all this guy.
This is a long time in the making, but we were finally able to line everything up. The stars aligned, and we were able to get it done. So
Mike was able to get that. I somehow snagged Teddy last year. I don't know how that happened, but it did.
Sometimes you just got to shoot your shot, people. Sometimes cool things happen. All the way back to Wet Hot was freaking awesome. Thank you for setting this up.
Yeah, there's no way I wasn't going to get to Wet Hot. I grew up watching that too, and I was like, I have to ask him questions about it.
Okay. Got Abby, absolutely. We're done here. Stand by, Abby. Okay, so on behalf of From the Great North to Wonder Wharf and David Wain.
Yes.
This is
Dad Jam Band. Check it out, guys.
Check it out. If you're on YouTube, the link should be there. Just click it there. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you for being cool and just enjoying what we do here. And we will see you next week for Bob's Burgers trivia.
Should be fun.
Hold on. I didn't set any of this shit up. Hold on.
I didn't do that. But
All right, here we go. We'll see you next Monday, everybody.
Next Monday, guys.
Good night.